The year was 2847. Humanity had changed so much from the old days when they lived only on Earth. Now, they had spread across 3 different solar systems. They had built cities on 17 different worlds. Huge space stations floated in the darkness between stars, and billions of people lived their lives among the stars. They had learned to make power from fusion reactors. They had figured out how to change their own genes. They had built thinking machines that helped them run everything from simple traffic lights to the giant machines that turned dead planets into living worlds. But even with all these amazing things, one question still kept humans awake at night. Were they alone in the universe? Was there anyone else out there in the endless darkness of space? Dr. Catherine Moore had spent her whole life trying to answer that question. She was 67 years old now, and she had been searching for 43 of those years. She ran the Deep Space Monitoring Array on Europa Station, a moon of Jupiter that had become one of humanity's most important listening posts. Her team of 12 scientists worked with the most powerful detection equipment ever built. These machines could hear a whisper from hundreds of light years away. They could tell the difference between natural space noise and something made by intelligent beings. For 43 years, Catherine had heard nothing but silence. The universe seemed empty and cold, but she never gave up hope. On the morning of March 17th, everything changed. Her assistant was a young man named Daniel Perry. He was only 25. Fresh from the academy, full of energy and dreams. That morning his voice shook when he called out to her. "Dr. Moore," he said, "you need to see this right now." Catherine pushed herself up from her desk. Her old bones hurt even in the low gravity of Europa. She floated over to where Daniel sat in front of his screens. The holographic displays glowed blue and green, showing wave patterns she had never seen before. "The signal is coming from about 400 light years away," Daniel explained. His hands were trembling. "It's from the direction of the constellation Lyra, and Dr. Moore, it's not natural. Look at the math." Catherine looked at the waveform dancing across the screen. The signal pulsed in prime numbers first. Then it changed to geometric patterns. Then it showed what looked like basic physics constants, the kind of numbers that would be the same anywhere in the universe. This was not an accident. This was not background noise. This was a message. "Wake everyone up," Catherine said softly, "and get me a secure line to Earth Command." The news traveled fast. Within hours, the most powerful people in human civilization knew about the signal. The United Earth Council called an emergency meeting. Leaders from every colony, every station, every major nation gathered in a massive virtual conference room. Fleet Admiral Gregory Palmer was there. He commanded all of humanity's military forces, every warship and soldier spread across the stars. His face showed no emotion as he listened to the scientists explain what they had found. Dr. Samantha Wright was the council's top science advisor. She stood before the gathered leaders and tried to make them understand what was happening. "The signal is definitely made by intelligent beings," she said, "but there's something more important. The signal is aimed directly at us. Whoever sent this message knew exactly where Earth was. They knew where humanity lives." Councilwoman Patricia Dunn leaned forward in her chair. She was one of the most powerful politicians in human space. "What does the message say?" "We're still working on understanding all of it," Dr. Wright answered. "But we think part of it shows coordinates. A location in space." "A location for what?" Admiral Palmer asked. Dr. Wright took a deep breath. "We believe it's an invitation. They want to meet us." The meeting room exploded with voices. Everyone was talking at once. Some people wanted to be careful and wait. Others wanted to send a message back right away. Religious leaders said this was a sign from God. Scientists warned that it might be a trap. News channels broadcast the story to every human world, and everywhere people felt the same thing: fear. The aliens were real. They knew where humanity lived, and they wanted to talk. But underneath the fear, something else was stirring in human hearts. Something that had been part of humanity since the very beginning. Something fierce and stubborn and brave. In a small apartment in New Chicago, on the North American continent of Earth, an old soldier named Marcus Cole watched the news on his wall screen. He was 72 years old, retired from the military for 15 years. His granddaughter Sophie sat beside him. She was only 8, and her eyes were wide with worry. "Grandpa," she asked in a small voice, "are we in danger?" Marcus thought about the question. He had seen a lot in his long life. He had fought in 3 different wars out in the colonies. He had lost friends to space pirates in the asteroid belt. He had watched humanity scratch and claw its way from one small planet to the stars. Through blood and tears and never-ending determination, he thought about all the times humans should have died out, the plagues, the wars, the disasters. Every single time they had survived. "No, sweetheart," he said finally. "I don't think we're in danger at all." Sophie looked confused. "But the aliens know where we are." Marcus smiled and put his arm around her. "That's exactly right. They know where we are. They've probably been watching us for a long time. And you know what? After watching us, they still decided to reach out. Either they want to be friends, or they think they can push us around. What if they try to push us around?" The old soldier's smile faded, replaced by something harder. Something that had kept humans alive through ice ages and wars and everything else the universe had thrown at them. "Then they're going to learn what every enemy of humanity has learned," he said. "We don't give up. We don't surrender. We don't go quietly. If they're looking for easy prey, they picked the wrong species." Sophie thought about this. "So the aliens might be in danger from us?" "That's exactly what I'm saying, little one." Back at Europa Station, Catherine Moore stared at her screens. The signal kept repeating over and over, like a lighthouse beam calling ships to harbor. Somewhere out there, 400 light-years away, someone was waiting for humanity to answer. She had searched for this moment her whole life. She had dreamed of it, hoped for it, prayed for it. Now that it was here, she felt something she didn't expect. She wasn't just excited or scared, she was proud. Humanity had crawled out of caves and learned to walk upright. They had built cities and ships and machines that could think. They had survived everything that tried to kill them. And now, finally, they were going to meet whoever else shared this universe with them. Whatever happened next, humanity would face it the way they always had. Together. And unafraid, the coordinates from the alien signal led humanity to a dead solar system 60 light-years from Earth. It was a lonely, forgotten place. 3 rocky planets circled around a dying red star that gave off barely any light or heat. Nothing could live there. Nothing should have been there at all. But something was. Between the 2nd and 3rd planet, floating in the darkness of space, there was a structure. It was huge, almost as big as a small moon. Its shape was strange and beautiful, all perfect angles and impossible curves that seemed to bend in ways that hurt the eyes. It was clearly not natural. Someone had built it. Someone had been waiting there for a very long time. The diplomatic ship. Horizon moved toward the structure slowly and carefully. Captain Laura Bennett stood on the bridge, watching through the viewports. She had been chosen to lead this mission because she was calm under pressure and good at solving problems in creative ways. Her crew of 200 men and women were the best humanity had to offer. Scientists, soldiers, diplomats, engineers. All of them had volunteered for a mission that might be the most important thing humans had ever done. "We're holding position at 500 kilometers, reported Lieutenant Kevin Shaw, the pilot. He was young, but skilled, his hands steady on the controls. "I've been sending greeting messages on all frequencies. No response yet." Laura kept her eyes on the alien structure. It was beautiful, she thought, but in a cold way. Like a perfect mathematical equation written in metal and light. Nothing about it felt welcoming. "Dr. Chen," she called out. "What can you tell me about it?" Dr. Nathan Chen was the ship's xenobiologist, an expert in life forms that might exist on other worlds. He had spent his whole career preparing for a moment like this, even though he never really believed it would happen. Now he shook his head in amazement. "I've never seen anything like this, Captain. The material it's made from doesn't match anything in our records, and the energy readings are incredible. Whatever powers that thing, it's far beyond our technology." Before Laura could respond, something happened. A beam of light shot out from the alien structure. It was not a weapon. Instead, It painted symbols on the hull of the horizon. The symbols changed and shifted, like someone flipping through a book. Different shapes, different patterns, different systems of writing. The beam was trying to communicate. Then suddenly the symbols turned into English words. You have come, we have waited. Approach. Laura felt her crew tense up around her. Fear was natural. Fear was expected. But they were human, and humans did not let fear stop them. Take us in, Lieutenant Shaw, she ordered. Nice and slow. The horizon moved forward. As they got closer, a section of the alien structure opened up like a flower blooming backward. Inside was a docking bay, big enough to hold a dozen ships their size. Laura guided the horizon inside, and the walls sealed shut behind them. The air is safe to breathe, Dr. Chen reported, checking his instruments. Gravity is exactly the same as Earth. They've prepared this place for us. They knew we were coming. Laura picked her contact team carefully. She would go herself, of course. Dr. Chen would come to study the aliens. Amanda Torres, her security chief, would keep them safe. Ryan Brooks, the communications expert, would help them talk. For humans to meet an alien civilization, they walked down the boarding ramp into a room that looked like a cathedral made of light. The walls glowed with soft colors. The ceiling stretched up so high they could barely see it. And waiting for them in the center of the room were the beings who had called humanity. Across the stars. The aliens were hard to describe. They were tall, maybe 3 meters high. Their bodies seemed to be made of crystal that constantly shifted and changed. When they moved, they left trails of light behind them like the tail of a comet. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. One of the beings came forward. Its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, somehow already translated into perfect English. We are the Convergence, the alien said. We have watched your species for 10,000 of your years. We saw you when you were living in caves. We watched you learn to farm, to build, to make war. We saw your plagues and your disasters and your endless fighting. We did not expect you to survive. Laura kept her voice steady. But we did survive. Yes, you did. The alien paused. Its crystal body flickered with light. Your kind is strange to us. Most species we watch either destroy themselves completely or learn to live in total peace. You have done neither. You fight wars constantly, yet you also build wonderful things. You hate each other, yet you also love. You are chaos given a body. Is that why you contacted us? Laura asked. We contacted you because you have reached a dangerous point. Your technology is now powerful enough to threaten more than just your own worlds. If we leave you alone, you will spread across this galaxy like a disease, destroying everything in your path. Laura felt Amanda's hand move toward her weapon. She placed a calming hand on her security chief's arm. Not yet. What do you want from us? The Convergence has kept order in this part of space for 3 million years. We offer you a choice. You can join our collective mind. Give up your individual thoughts, your anger, your chaos. Become part of something bigger than yourselves. Something peaceful. Something that will last forever. And if we refuse, the alien's crystal form pulsed brighter. Then we will do what we have done to 17 other species who refused. We will stop your expansion. We will keep you trapped in your own small corner of space. We will make sure you never threaten the order of the universe again. Laura looked at her team. She looked at the alien being in front of her. She thought about everything humanity had been through. All the suffering and all the victories, all the darkness and all the light. She thought about her 2 children back on Earth, waiting for her to come home. Then she smiled. You've been watching us for 10,000 years, she said. You saw everything we did. But I don't think you understand us at all. The alien tilted its crystalline head. Explain. You see our chaos as a weakness. You think our fighting and our emotions make us dangerous and unpredictable? You're right about one thing. We are unpredictable. But that's not a bug in our programming. That's the whole point of being human. She took a step forward, and for the first time, the ancient alien being actually moved backward.
Ow.
We're not going to join your collective. We're not going to give up who we are. And if you try to cage us, You're going to learn something that every enemy of humanity has learned throughout history. What is that? Laura's smile grew wider, but her eyes were hard as steel. That putting humans in a corner is the worst mistake you can ever make. The Horizon returned to Earth carrying the worst news in human history. An alien civilization called the Convergence had given humanity an impossible choice. Surrender your minds and become part of their collective, or be trapped in a cage of stars forever. There was no third option. There was no room for discussion. The United Earth Council met for 3 days and 3 nights without stopping. Some leaders argued that humanity should accept the offer. The Convergence promised peace and immortality. Was that really so terrible? Others said humanity should simply surrender and hope the aliens would be merciful. What chance did they have against a species that had ruled the galaxy for 3 million years? Fear spread through every human world like a sickness. News channels showed footage of the alien structure of the crystalline beings who had delivered their ultimatum. People locked themselves in their homes. Churches and temples filled with worshippers praying for salvation. Some people predicted the end of everything, but then something unexpected began to happen. It started in small ways. In a factory in Berlin, Germany, a woman named Hannah Schmidt gathered her co-workers together. She was 43 years old, an ordinary worker who had never done anything remarkable in her life. But that day, she wrote a petition refusing to surrender. Within hours, 3,000 workers had signed it. In Tokyo, Japan, a university student named Grace Yamamoto organized a protest march. She was only 19, too young to remember when humans had still been confined to Earth. She carried a sign that said simply, "We will not submit." 20,000 people marched with her through the streets of the city, across the colonies. Military veterans began posting messages on every communication network. Old soldiers and young men and women, people who had fought in humanity's wars and knew what it meant to face death, their message was the same everywhere. We will not give up who we are. The scattered voices grew louder. The small protests became massive demonstrations. Within 1 week, what had started as fear had transformed into something else entirely: defiance, rage. The stubborn human refusal to accept defeat. Admiral Gregory Palmer stood before the United Earth Council and presented his military analysis. His face was tired but determined. He had not slept in 4 days. "I will not lie to you," he said. "The Convergence is more powerful than us in every way we can measure. Their weapons could burn worlds to ash. Their ships outnumber our entire fleet by a factor of thousands. If we look at this logically, we have no chance at all." Councilwoman Patricia Dunn closed her eyes. "Then what choice do we have?" "I wasn't finished, Councilwoman." Admiral Palmer touched a control, and a holographic display appeared in the air. It showed data from the Horizon's mission, everything the ship's sensors had recorded about the Convergence. Yes, they're powerful. Yes, they're ancient. But they're also slow. Their last war was 800,000 years ago. They've forgotten what it means to fight. They've been sitting in their perfect order for so long that they can't imagine anyone refusing them. He changed the display to show human history. Wars and disasters, plagues and famines, nuclear bombs and biological weapons. And through all of it, humans surviving, rebuilding, moving forward. They told Captain Bennett, "They've watched us for 10,000 years. In that time, we went from living in mud huts to traveling between stars. We survived everything that tried to kill us. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, wars that killed billions. We adapted. We evolved. We refused to die." Palmer turned to face every member of the council. "The Convergence sees our chaos as a flaw. They think our emotions and our conflicts make us weak. But they're wrong. Our chaos is our greatest weapon. We can think in ways they can't imagine. We can change and adapt faster than they can react. We can surprise them." Captain Laura Bennett stepped forward. She had barely rested since returning from the alien structure, but her voice was strong and clear. "The Convergence gave us 2 choices," she said. "Join them or be imprisoned." But they forgot something important. They forgot that humans always find a third option. Councilwoman Dunn looked at her. "What third option?" Laura's eyes burned with fierce determination. We fight, and we win. The vote happened that same day. It was not unanimous. Some council members still wanted peace at any price, but the majority had made their decision. Humanity would not surrender. Humanity would not submit. Humanity would prepare for war. What followed was the greatest mobilization in human history. Every colony, every space station, every ship contributed something. Scientists worked without sleep to understand convergence technology from the data the horizon had collected. Engineers built new weapons and shields. Soldiers trained for combat against enemies no human had ever faced before, and deep in secret research facilities across human space. A special project began. Dr. Nathan Chen led the research team. He had spent months studying everything humanity knew about the convergence, and he had discovered something important. The aliens were not as unified as they appeared. Their collective mind was held together by a network of relay stations scattered throughout their territory. The relays connected every convergence being to every other. Without them, the collective would fall apart. The problem is, Dr. Chen explained to Admiral Palmer, the relay stations have the best defenses in the convergence. No ship we have could get close enough to attack them. Then we build better ships, Palmer replied. That would take decades. We don't have that much time. Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then his face changed as an idea came to him. There might be another way. The convergence merged their minds to achieve perfect peace. But that merger cost them something. They lost their creativity. They lost their ability to think as individuals. They can't imagine solutions that aren't already in their programming. They can't think outside their patterns, and humans can. Humans are nothing but thinking outside patterns. Admiral, the convergence considers our unpredictability to be chaos. But chaos is just another word for creativity, for adaptation, for the ability to surprise your enemy with something they never expected. He pulled up a new display showing the relay network. If we can get close to their relays, we don't need to destroy them with weapons. We can destroy them with ideas. We can introduce something into their perfect system that they've never encountered before. Admiral Palmer leaned forward. What exactly? Dr. Chen's smile was grim but confident. Noise, static. The beautiful, messy, unpredictable noise of individual human minds. Their system depends on perfect order. We're going to give them perfect chaos. Across human space, the preparations continued. Ships were built and armed. Soldiers said goodbye to their families. Scientists perfected their secret weapon. Everyone knew that many would not survive what was coming. But no one talked about surrender anymore. No one talked about giving up. In homes and factories and military bases, in schools and hospitals and churches, humanity had found its answer to the convergence ultimatum. If the universe wanted order, it had picked a fight with the wrong species. Humans were coming, and they would not be ignored. The convergence expected humanity to surrender. They had watched humans for 10,000 years and had decided that such a young, chaotic species could never challenge their ancient power. They waited calmly for the message of submission that they were certain would come. Instead, they received the largest military attack in human history. Admiral Gregory Palmer commanded the assault from his flagship, a massive carrier called the Unity around him. 3,000 human warships formed into battle groups. Each group was led by a captain who had been chosen for one specific quality, the ability to think in unexpected ways. The convergence had certainly analyzed every military textbook humanity had ever written. They probably knew every strategy, every tactic, every formation humans had used throughout their history of warfare. So Admiral Palmer made a simple decision. He threw all the textbooks away. All ships, execute Pattern Omega, he ordered over the fleet communication channel. Pattern Omega was not really a pattern at all. It was organized chaos. Each captain had been given broad goals, but complete freedom in how to achieve them. Attack the enemy. Protect your fellow ships. Reach the relay stations. Beyond those simple rules, every captain made their own decisions, moment by moment. Based on what they saw happening around them, the result was a battle formation that changed every second. Ships darted and weaved in ways that no computer could predict. Groups formed and broke apart and formed again in new configurations. To the Convergence, it must have looked like madness. The alien response was overwhelming. Crystalline warships appeared by the thousands, each one larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever built. Their weapons could cut through armor like sunlight through fog. In the first hour of battle, 400 human ships were destroyed, but the humans did not retreat. They did not slow down. They kept coming. Captain Laura Bennett led the attack on the first relay station. Her ship, the rebuilt Horizon, carried a special cargo. Dr. Chen's device was stored in the cargo bay, ready to be launched. All Laura had to do was get close enough to the relay to deploy it. Enemy ships ahead, Lieutenant Kevin Shaw reported from the pilot's seat. I'm counting 300 of them between us and the target. Take us through them, Laura ordered. Maximum speed. The Horizon dove into the heart of the enemy fleet like a spear thrown into the ocean. Convergence beams slashed across the ship's hull. Whole sections of the Horizon vanished in flashes of light. Crew members died at their stations, their screams cut short by the vacuum of space. Amanda Torres. The security chief returned fire with every weapon the Horizon had. She knew she could not destroy the enemy ships, but she could distract them. She could buy precious seconds. Relay station in range, Ryan Brooks called out from his console. Deploy the device, Laura commanded. A single pod launched from the Horizon's cargo bay. It was small, no bigger than a person, tumbling through space, toward the massive alien relay. When it struck the relay, it exploded in a burst of cascading, colorful light. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Convergence ships in the area began to drift. Their movements became jerky and confused, like puppets whose strings had been cut. The beings inside the ships suddenly disconnected from the collective mind, experienced individual thought for the first time in millions of years. Some of them simply stopped functioning, overwhelmed by the sudden loneliness. Others went mad, firing their weapons in random directions. But a few remarkably began to change sides. Cut off from the Convergence, they discovered that they were not the same as their fellows. They had their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own choices to make. And some of them chose to help the humans. Across the battlefield, the same scene repeated again and again. Human ships, each operating independently, struck at relay after relay. The attacks were not coordinated in any way the Convergence could predict. Each captain chose their own path, their own timing, their own method of attack. Some were destroyed. Many succeeded. And every successful attack weakened the Convergence further. The Unity took a direct hit to her bridge. Fire and debris exploded through the command center. Admiral Palmer was thrown across the room, his body broken and bleeding. Medics rushed to save him while the surviving crew fought to keep the ship alive. Palmer survived barely. He transferred his command to a small destroyer and kept fighting. His body was broken, but his spirit was not. Laura Bennett watched her crew die one by one. The Horizon was falling apart around her. More wreck than ship now. Of the 200 people who had started the mission, only she and Daniel Perry remained alive. The young man who had first discovered the alien signal was now helping her pilot a dying ship toward its final target. "We're not going to make it back," Daniel said quietly. "Shh, I know," Laura replied. "Do you want to stop?" Daniel thought about it for only a moment. Then he shook his head. "No, Captain. Let's finish this." The Horizon made its final run. In the ruins of another ship, the old soldier Marcus Cole made his last stand. He had come out of retirement when humanity called for volunteers. At 72 years old, with his best fighting years far behind him, he had demanded a place on a warship. No one had the heart to refuse him. Now his ship was destroyed, broken into pieces that drifted through the battle like falling leaves. Marcus floated in a corridor that still had air, holding a rifle that was running low on power. Convergence drones were coming for him, climbing through the wreckage to finish off any survivors he could have hidden. He could have waited for death to find him. Instead, he braced himself against a bulkhead and raised his weapon. "Come on," he growled at the approaching enemy. "I've been waiting my whole life for something like this." The first drone appeared around a corner. Marcus shot it. 2 more followed. He shot them too. His rifle ran dry, so he pulled out his sidearm. When that was empty, he drew his knife. When the knife was knocked from his hand, he used his fists. Marcus Cole died, standing up, fighting to his last breath, refusing to give the enemy even one moment of easy victory. The battle lasted 9 days. Human losses were catastrophic. 2/3 of the fleet was destroyed. Entire colonies were burned to ash when convergence ships broke through the lines and reached populated worlds. Millions of humans died, but they won. The relay network was shattered, the convergence collective mind. Fragmented into billions of individual beings who could no longer hear each other's thoughts. Without their unity, without their order, the ancient civilization that had ruled this part of the galaxy for 3 million years simply fell apart. On the 10th day, the last convergence warships stopped fighting. They did not surrender exactly. They simply had no one left to tell them what to do. Individual beings, experiencing freedom for the first time, drifted away in all directions, trying to understand what had happened to them. Admiral Palmer, wrapped in bandages and supported by medics, looked out at the battlefield from the bridge of his battered destroyer. Wreckage floated everywhere. Human ships, alien ships, bodies of both species. The cost had been terrible beyond imagination, but they had won. Humanity had faced a civilization 3 million years older and infinitely more powerful. They had been told to submit or be destroyed, and they had answered with fire and blood and the stubborn refusal to accept. Defeat the universe would never look at humanity the same way again. The convergence. Collective shattered like a mirror dropped on stone. For 3 million years, billions of beings had shared one mind, one purpose, one endless moment of perfect unity. Now that connection was gone, and each being found itself alone for the first time. Many could not survive the change. They fled into the deepest parts of space, unable to cope with the silence in their minds. Others simply stopped moving, frozen by a loneliness they had no words to describe. But some of the former convergence beings discovered something unexpected in their isolation. They discovered themselves 1 year after the war ended. A delegation of these changed beings arrived at Earth. They came in a small ship, not a warship, carrying no weapons. They came to talk. Their leader had chosen a human name for herself. She called herself Claire. Her crystalline body still flickered with light when she moved, but there was something different about her now. Something more alive. She stood before the United Earth Council and spoke in a voice that was softer than any convergence being had ever sounded before. "We were wrong about you," she said. "We believed that order was the highest good in the universe. We believed that chaos was a sickness that needed to be cured. We were blind to so many things." Councilwoman Patricia Dunn looked at the alien carefully. She still carried scars from the war. Burns on her arms from when the council building had been hit during a convergence attack. She had lost 2 brothers in the fighting. Trust did not come easily to her now. "What do you want from us?" she asked. "We want to learn," Claire answered. "We want to understand. Your species has something that we lost so long ago, we forgot it ever existed. You call it many things. Freedom, creativity, the spark that makes each of you different from every other. We simply call it life." The council debated for a long time, as councils always do. Some members wanted revenge for what the convergence had done. Others wanted to send the aliens away and never see them again. But in the end, humanity made a different choice. "You are welcome to stay, Councilwoman," Dunn said finally. "You can learn here. You can grow. You can become whatever you choose to be. That is what we do. We make mistakes. We suffer. We struggle. And somehow, we keep going." Claire's form pulsed with colors that seemed to express gratitude. "Your kindness after everything we did to you. Your willingness to help those who tried to destroy you. Your species is truly terrifying." Dunn almost smiled. "Thank you. We try." In the years that followed, humanity began to rebuild what the war had broken. The colonies that had been destroyed were built again, bigger and stronger than before. The ships that had been lost were replaced by new designs, incorporating everything humanity had learned from fighting the convergence. New generations were born who had never known a universe without alien neighbors, and slowly, carefully, humans and former convergence beings began to work together. Dr. Nathan Chen led the first joint research team. His counterpart was a former convergence entity who had chosen the name Stephen, fascinated by human naming conventions. Together, they explored questions that neither species could answer alone. What was consciousness? What made a mind? Was there a way to have unity without losing individuality? One evening, Stephen stood beside Nathan on a beach in Hawaii. Watching the sun set over the Pacific Ocean, the sky turned orange and pink and purple, colors reflecting off the clouds and the water in patterns that were never quite the same twice. "In 3 million years," Stephen said quietly, "we never appreciated something like this. The chaos of light scattering through air, the randomness of waves breaking on sand. We saw it all as noise, imperfection to be filtered out." Nathan smiled. "And now? Now, I think the noise might be the point. The imperfection might be what makes things beautiful." Similar scenes happened across human space. Former enemies became partners, then colleagues, then friends. The rigid order of the convergence began to blend with the vibrant chaos of humanity, creating something new. Something that had never existed before in the long history of the galaxy. Admiral Gregory Palmer, finally recovered from his injuries, oversaw the construction of a new fleet. But these ships were different from the warships of the past. Yes, they carried weapons. Defense was still necessary, but they also carried laboratories for research, libraries filled with knowledge, concert halls where music could be performed. They were built not just for war, but for exploration, for discovery, for the endless human desire to see what waited beyond the next horizon. Captain Laura Bennett had survived the war, though her ship had not. She was given command of the first of these new vessels, a beautiful ship called the Voyager. Her crew was a mix of humans and former convergence beings, working together as one team. Her mission was to seek out the other species the convergence had trapped or controlled over the millions of years. To offer them the same choice humanity had given their former enemies. Daniel Perry stood beside her on the bridge as the Voyager prepared for its first journey. He was no longer the nervous young assistant who had first discovered the alien signal. The war had changed him, hardened him, but also given him purpose. "Some of the species out there might not want to be found," he said. "Some of them might want to fight us." Allura nodded. "You're probably right. Some might want to hide. Some might want to join us. Some might want to be left alone. That's the thing about giving people freedom, Daniel. You never know what they're going to do with it." "Doesn't that worry you?" "A little bit, yes. But it also excites me. That's what being human means. We're scared and brave at the same time. We're foolish and wise. We're cruel and kind. We're everything all at once, all the time. That's our gift and our curse." The Voyager's engines hummed to life. Around them, the stars beckoned, countless points of light in the endless darkness. Each star might have planets. Each planet might have life. Each life might have stories worth hearing. "Take us out, Daniel," Laura said. "Let's see what's waiting for us." The ship leaped forward into the unknown, carrying with it all the chaos and wonder of the human spirit. Behind them, Earth shone blue and green, a tiny beacon of life in the vastness of space. The planet where it had all begun. The home that humanity would never forget, no matter how far they traveled. Somewhere out there, other species waited. Other challenges loomed. Other questions demanded answers. The universe was vast and full of mysteries, and humanity had barely begun to explore it, but they were ready. They had always been ready. Through ice ages and plagues, through wars and disasters, through every challenge the universe had thrown at them, humans had survived. They had adapted. They had grown stronger, and now freed from the threat of the convergence. United with former enemies who were becoming friends, humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. Not as conquerors or victims, not as order or chaos, but as something in between. Something unique, something terrifying and wonderful and utterly, beautifully human. The Voyager disappeared into the distance, chasing the light of distant suns. Behind it, 100 more ships were being built, 1,000 more crews being trained, 1,000,000 more dreams being dreamed. The galaxy had tried to cage humanity once. It had learned its lesson. Now, humanity was free, and they were just getting started.